Emma Collins had always been the dependable wife. She made dinner at 7, folded the laundry by 9, and smiled politely at all the right moments. From the outside, her life in suburban Connecticut looked like something out of a Hallmark movie: white picket fence, a modest but cozy house, and a husband who paid the bills and kissed her forehead every morning. But behind the manicured lawn and shiny kitchen counters, Emma's world was dull. Not bad, just muted. Her husband, Greg, was a good man. Stable, reliable, hard-working. He never yelled, never cheated, and never forgot to mow the lawn. But he also never noticed when Emma wore a new dress. Or when she cried in the shower. Or when she slowly stopped dreaming. It wasn't always like this. Emma used to be fire, vibrant, sharp, bold. Back in her late 20s, when she worked as a marketing executive at a boutique agency in Manhattan, she was unstoppable. That's where she met him. Adrian Cole. Her old boss. He was 10 years older, magnetic, brilliant, and just a little dangerous. Adrian never played it safe. He chased deals like a storm, laughed too loud, flirted too easily. And he believed in Emma before she ever believed in herself. They never dated. Never crossed that line. But the tension was always there, simmering just beneath the surface. When Emma left the firm after marrying Greg and moving out of the city, she told herself she was choosing peace over passion. That life wasn't about fire, it was about foundations. But now, 8 years later, as she stared at the dinner Greg had once again forgotten to appreciate, she felt like she had buried herself alive. The change began with a simple LinkedIn message. Emma. Long time. Saw your photo pop up. Damn, you still look good. Grab coffee sometime? Adrian. Her heart skipped a beat. She should have deleted it. Blocked him. Laughed it off. But instead, she typed back. It's been a while, Adrian. Sure. Why not? The coffee shop wasn't fancy. Just a quiet spot in the city, tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. Emma wore her favorite cream sweater and too much mascara. She told herself it was casual. Just two professionals catching up. Then he walked in. Adrian hadn't changed much, still had that swagger, that salt and pepper scruff, the tailored coat and dark eyes that always seemed to see straight through her. Emma, he said with a grin that made her stomach twist. You look better than ever. She smiled, her pulse racing. You always were a terrible liar. He laughed. Not lying. Just telling the truth people forget to say. They talked for 2 hours. About work. About their old team. About everything except marriage. As she got up to leave, Adrian touched her hand, just briefly, but enough to light a spark she thought had long died. You ever think about coming back? He asked, voice low. To the city? To the real game? She hesitated. Sometimes. He leaned closer. You should. And then he was gone. Back home, Greg was watching a football game, half asleep on the couch. He didn't notice Emma's lipstick was smudged or that she was quieter than usual. He didn't ask where she'd been. He never did. That night, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan, remembering Adrian's eyes, his voice, the way he made her feel like she still mattered. She knew she was standing on a line. But it felt so damn good to be noticed again. The days that followed were a slow unraveling. Emma tried to focus on her routine, making Greg's lunch, sorting out the bills, prepping for the charity event at the church, but something had shifted. She began checking her phone more often, wondering if Adrian would message again. And he did. Sometimes it was just a meme, sometimes a song link, sometimes a random thought in the middle of the night. But each ping made her stomach flip. Remember that awful campaign we ran for that weird shoe brand? I still wake up in cold sweats. Listening to the National tonight. You always hated them. Still do? You were always too good for that place. Too good for all of us, honestly. He was pulling her back into a world she had buried, a world of ambition, passion, challenge, and desire. Greg didn't notice a thing. He kissed her cheek every morning, never asked about her phone, and mumbled goodnight with his back turned. One evening, after Greg fell asleep, Emma slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of wine and stared out the window into the quiet, dark yard. Her phone buzzed. In town tomorrow. Want to grab lunch? She stared at the message, heart thumping. This was a bad idea. But it also felt like the only thing that had made her feel alive in months. Yes. Usual place? Lunch turned into wine. Wine turned into laughter. Laughter turned into a long walk through the city streets, where old memories came alive like ghosts. Do you ever regret leaving the agency? Adrian asked casually, but she could feel the weight behind it. Emma hesitated. Sometimes. But I got a stable life. A good man. But not a man who sees you. His voice was quiet, cutting. She stopped walking. That's not fair. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, warm and familiar. Maybe not. But is it true? Emma didn't respond. Adrian reached up and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You were made for more than folding laundry and watching reruns of Friends, Emma. Her breath caught. I still think about you, he whispered. Even after all these years. She should have walked away. But instead, she looked up at him and said the word she never thought she would. Then kiss me. And he did. The kiss was desperate and electric and wrong in every way, and yet it felt like a piece of her had come home. They parted, breathless, and Adrian's hand lingered on her waist. Come with me, he said. Just for a few days. Let's get away. She pulled back, eyes wide. Adrian, I'm married. To a man who doesn't see you, he repeated. And who wouldn't even know you're gone. Emma felt the ground shift beneath her feet. This wasn't just about flirting anymore. This was a choice. A fork in the road. Let me think, she whispered. He nodded. I'll be at the Mercer. Room 608. Back home, Greg was sitting on the couch, microwaving leftover pizza. He looked up when Emma walked in. Hey, babe. Everything okay? Emma forced a smile. Yeah. Just tired. You smell like wine. She shrugged. Had a drink with an old coworker. Greg nodded, already back to his food. Cool. You want a slice? No thanks. She climbed the stairs slowly, heart heavy. Her reflection in the hallway mirror showed a woman she barely recognized, eyes too sad, lips too red, guilt written all over her face. But underneath it all was desire. Not just for Adrian, but for herself. For the version of Emma who used to chase big dreams, who felt beautiful, wanted, alive. She went to bed next to Greg, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling fan again. The same one she stared at the night after the first message. But this time, the line had been crossed. Emma didn't sleep that night. She lay stiff beside Greg, her body present but her mind adrift, looping through every word Adrian had said, every glance, every touch. By morning, she had made up her mind. She packed a small bag, one dress, a change of clothes, her toothbrush, and the red heels she hadn't worn since the wedding of her cousin 2 years ago. Her hands trembled slightly, but she moved with purpose. Greg was still asleep when she slipped out the front door. Room 608 at the Mercer smelled like expensive cologne and strong coffee. Adrian answered in a t-shirt and jeans, surprised, but only slightly. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said. Emma walked in slowly. Neither was I. They stood there in silence for a moment, two people suspended between guilt and temptation. Then she kissed him, slow, deliberate, and this time with no hesitation. The next hours blurred, soft sheets, stolen breaths, whispered names. Years of buried passion surged back, drowning her in sensations she had forgotten she could feel. For the first time in years, Emma wasn't a wife. She wasn't someone's obligation or a background character in her own life. She was Emma. Wild. Desired. Free. They stayed in the room for most of the day. Ordered room service. Talked about the past. Laughed. made love again. But as the sun dipped lower, reality crept in like a shadow. Emma sat by the window, wrapped in a white hotel robe, staring out at the bustling city. Adrian walked up behind her, kissed her neck. "Stay another night," she sighed. "I can't. Greg's going to notice." He said nothing for a moment. Then, carefully, "What if we made this real? Not just a secret. Not just a night." Emma turned to him, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I've thought about it, Em. You and me. You coming back to the city. The agency. Hell, I'd give you your own department if you wanted it. We were always good together. You know that." Her heart squeezed. He wasn't wrong. Their chemistry, professionally and personally, was undeniable. But life wasn't a movie. There were consequences. Real ones. "You want me to leave, Greg?" she asked. Adrian hesitated. "I want you to choose you. Whatever that means." That night, she drove back home in silence. Her wedding ring felt heavier than usual. The house was dark when she pulled into the driveway. Greg was on the porch, waiting. He didn't yell. Didn't ask where she had been. Just said quietly, "You smell like someone else." Emma froze. Greg looked up at her. There was no anger in his eyes. Just tiredness. Sadness. "I've known something was off for a while. But I didn't want to see it." She stepped forward, guilt burning in her chest. "Greg, He raised a hand. "Don't lie. Please. Just tell me the truth. Do you love him?" Emma looked away. "I don't know." He nodded. "Then maybe that's all I need to know." The next morning, Emma packed more bags. Not for Adrian. Not for Greg. But for herself. She moved into a small apartment in the city, nothing fancy, just hers. She took a consulting job with a friend's firm. Reconnected with her old network. She didn't jump into a relationship with Adrian. In fact, she didn't see him for weeks. He called. Texted. Even waited outside her building once. But she told him the same thing every time. "I need to figure out who I am without either of you." It wasn't easy. There were nights she cried. Nights she missed the comfort of Greg's steady presence or the fire of Adrian's touch. But slowly, she began to rediscover herself. She started painting again. Joined a book club. Wore red lipstick just because she wanted to. One evening, as she walked past a bookstore window, she caught her reflection and paused. She looked different. Not younger. Not more glamorous. Just alive. Months later, Emma met Greg for coffee. They talked like old friends. He told her he had started therapy. She told him she was planning a trip to Italy alone. "I always thought you were happy," he said quietly. "I thought I was too," she replied. "Until I realized I was just comfortable." He nodded, thoughtful. "Do you ever regret it? Leaving?" Emma looked out the window, watching the autumn leaves swirl. "No," she said softly. "I regret staying as long as I did." Greg gave a sad smile. "Fair enough." They hugged before parting ways. No drama. No anger. Just the quiet acceptance that some stories end. And others begin. Epilogue. Emma did see Adrian again. Once. It was at a gallery opening in Soho. He looked good, confident, successful, the way he always had. They shared a drink, a few laughs, a long look that said everything and nothing. Then she kissed his cheek and walked away. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sad. She was just done needing someone else to define her. And for the first time in her life, that was enough. The end.